Good afternoon, guys. Bit of a cold today, I must admit. Okay, so what do we know about today then? Well, obviously, things move, things change, and we know that Chelsea or were waiting on a decision regarding whether they were able to sell the rest of the tickets and actually managed to get out tickets for the game against Middlesbrough at the weekend, the FA Cup game, but only so far to season ticket holders. Obviously, with the legislation being put in place by the government, we've been unable to sell those tickets, but we're waiting for a reprieve, or at least for instructions. We've now been told, obviously, that's not to be allowed. So we've now put in another request to the FA, reference that because we're going to have nobody there as such, I don't know whether my ticket's actually valid at all, because I've actually managed to get myself one, or whether we're going to have a completely empty stand. I think we were given 4,200 tickets, I think, for the actual game. And the fact that we got no supporters there, we're looking to obviously continue to play the game, but play it behind closed doors. So we're waiting on instructions from that. I know that Middlesbrough have sent out a bit of a funny reply, do you know what I mean? Talking about, like hypocrisy and all that with regards to it. Well, it's not like we've done anything as a football club or football supporters, but there you go. Okay, these bids, obviously, we know on Friday the decision's going to be made. It looks like it's kind of narrowing down a little bit, although there were 200 investors actually interested in Chelsea, and it seems that it's kind of narrowed down to Nick Candy, this media company from Saudi Arabia, Mohammed Al Khaleki, and Todd Bowley, which seems to be the preferred choice for, or at least the front runner, according to Matt Law. What do we know about these guys? Well, we know that Todd Bowley is teaming up with the Whisk Group from Switzerland. I think that guy's in his late 80s, but I think between them they got about 9 billion, 4.72 billion from Todd Bowley. He's always wanted to acquire Chelsea, to be fair. But he's definitely an interested party with other US investors. Some people put him as the front runner. To be fair, out of these particular three, it's probably my least favourable one. The other one is, of course, this Saudi media group that's put in a bid for 2.7 billion. It's a massive, massive bid. And the CEO engineer holding group of that is Mohammed Al Khaleki. Now, apparently, this guy's there's no dealings at all here with the government. I find that pretty hard to believe, to be fair, and I think this one's going to be controversial, purely and simply because, I think they're not going to leave Newcastle alone at all because of the human rights scenario and definitely the war that's going on between Saudi Arabia and Yemen and those executions that took place. I mean, how the fuck can you defend that? And of course, if this bid was to become successful, then I guess there'd be certain players of the Chelsea ladies team that will feel pretty uncomfortable about that, bearing the fact that, was it the right word? They're gay or I don't listen. I don't want to get myself into any trouble pronouncing anything wrong. But the point is, I'd imagine they'd feel very uncomfortable with regards to that. That said, I think everything's hypocritical, complete and utter hypocrisy everywhere you look because you can't avoid it. For example, Land Rover, Jaguar cars, Saudi Arabian owned. Investments, Twitter, massive investment, Twitter. Obviously, you've got oil right now, Boris Johnson. Even though we've got all these atrocities going on, it's almost like the war in Iraq, the war in Ukraine and Russia is absolutely terrible. There's only one side you can basically follow. If you follow what I'm saying there, I mean, if you're Russian, apparently you're guilty by association regardless. And yet we're kind of turning a blind eye to what's going on in Yemen with regards to Saudi Arabia. But as I say, I think lots of hotels, newspapers, journals, all Saudi Arabian owned. Boris Johnson obviously now having to go cap in hand now to Saudi Arabia for regards to oil reserves, fuel, because we're not trading with Russia. So it's where do you see this? I really don't know. If we're going to clean it all up from top to bottom, then you've got to literally look at everything you do in life and say, look, do you know what? Well, that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. Everyone has to live by the same rules. If not, then you separate politics from football completely, and you allow these things to go through. Listen to Gary Neville last night, to be fair, and he was going on about this moral thing where he's kind of changed his opinion on everything now. At first he was okay with it, but now he's having to look at it another way. I think probably with respect, the best possibility here is Nick Candy, and he's 51 years of age. He's got a personal wealth of 1.1 billion. He's talking about bringing in another Chelsea supporter, Martin Broughton. He's got a net worth of 10 billion. Both Chelsea supporters. Nick Candy began at Chelsea since the age of 4. His dad's ashes were sprinkled on the Stamford Bridge, pitch. And I believe on Sunday he was at the game when he had a personal meeting with Maria Gavaskaya and Bruce Buck. So whether that was to say, look, everything's going to stay in place. So I think the beautiful thing about him is he is a property developer, a big complex, beautiful complex in Hyde Park. Is it One Hyde Park that they put together, and absolutely glorious. So he's got the minerals in terms of being able to develop the stadium, and that is definitely part of his plan. Also to provide funds for the team, leave things in place as such, and also put supporters in the boardroom, or at least give supporters a say, like a golden ticket, so to speak. But I think out of those three, I think the safe pair of hands would probably be Nick Candy. With regards to those two individuals, Martin Broughton, as I say, is apparently worth 10 billion. Nick Candy, 1.1 billion. I don't know if he's talking about bringing his wife Holly Valance in, or his brother, who's I know is his business partner. But they are talking about bringing in a US hedge fund, a Citadel, I believe, and I've done my little bit of due diligence on them. And that hedge fund right now is worth 38 billion. So the money's definitely in place. He's the right type of character. He's also a Tory donor. It's less controversial than the Saudi Arabian one, and no one knows who the consortium is for the Saudi Arabia. We know that the guy who's head of the group is worth 2.7 billion, but the other individuals, they say there's a collective worth there going into the trillions. So definitely there'll be no shortage of cash capital outlay there. Definitely out of those three, I think the Todd Bowley, West Group, Switzerland, out of those three, I'd knock that one out. And I guess it depends on your morals, really, on your moral compass, whether you want to go with the Saudi dough or go for a British pair, two guys that support Chelsea, want supporters' involvement, want to develop the stadium, and they got a hedge fund which is worth more than what Abramovich was worth. So I suppose all eyes point towards that one, and I imagine the older Chelsea fans, maybe the old school, will probably be looking towards that one. I don't know, because I think even people today, with even with all the virtual signaling that's going on right now, I still feel that most of the youngsters will probably put their choice, the personal choice, towards the Saudi media group. Well, I really don't know, guys, but we are edging ever closer to that deadline on Friday. And who's to say there might be somebody else that just pops up out of nowhere? As I say, 200 people, were involved or showed an interest. That's 200 millionaires or billionaires. So we shall just have to wait and see, guys, and find out also what's the situation with regards to the game against Middlesbrough in the FA Cup at the weekends. My guess, because I think the FA are going to make a decision tomorrow, is that they'll continue to play the game, and perhaps just the season ticket holders of Chelsea will be there, 600 of us, 30,000 Middlesbrough, but we'll have to wait and see, guys. Middlesbrough aren't having any of it, and I think the FA will probably back Middlesbrough. But again, this points back to the government, and the very, very factor that we're in this situation now is because of them. I did actually say that because 1.5 billion has been wiped out, if you like, of the debt. There's no debt now, so anyone buys the club now that doesn't inherit any debt. Surely, couldn't there be, with regards to the sale money, the actual the person that wins, say they won 2.7 billion. Why can't the government give Chelsea a bridging loan right now on the basis that that'll be paid back after the sale of the club? Wouldn't that make more sense right now? It certainly wouldn't penalise Chelsea, would it? Because it's not like, as I say, the club's done anything wrong, and certainly the supporters haven't. That's for sure. Just to me, that would be much more sensible. If Chelsea went, look, there's X amount of dough. That's a bridging loan. We'll put that towards you, so your running costs are at normal, and you can operate normally. Your supporters can go in, your away fans can go in. Can't be that hard to do, you know what I mean? And then obviously once the club is sold, then the money that's been paid, for the acquisition of the football club, the government just get their money back. It's guaranteed. It just makes sense to me. So, anyway, I'll speak to you soon, guys, and much love up with Chelsea.